Welcome to the Caregivers Like Us podcast, where we are answering the call and serving others. The purpose of this podcast is to provide support, encouragement, resources, and solutions to the caregiving community. My name is Vaughn Foy, also known as the Voice Brander, and I'm here with my wonderful co-host and friend, Miss Coach Christy. We are listening forward to sharing with you. Enjoy. All right, welcome everybody back again to Caregivers Like Us. My name is Vaughn Foy, also known as the Voice Brander, and I'm here with Coach Christy.
Hello, hello.
And I am so thrilled to jump into this interview. It's going to be one of many, I'm going to tell you right now. I seem to know that we are meeting today. Our special guest is Miss Katrina Prescott, and I call her the Canadian caregiving queen, or maybe Canada's caregiving queen.
Yes.
Canada's caregiving queen. That's how it's supposed to be. Katrina's with us. There's a whole bunch with that title. She does so much major stuff. You'll be able to learn a little bit about her. But when I first connected with Katrina on LinkedIn, somehow something found her, discovered, and we began to talk. We had a Zoom together, and I think it was like 2 hours or something like that. And it was like something like that. And I was like, wow. And she's doing just major stuff for the caregiving community. So it is absolutely appropriate for her to be here on Caregivers Like Us, because she is absolutely one of us, and she gets it. It shows in her everything that she does, from conventions to conferences to films to copy to all this other stuff. So welcome. We're just going to jump into it. Welcome, Katrina. Thanks for being with us here.
Thanks for having me. That's such a great intro. Canada's caregiving queen. I'm totally here for that. Thank you.
We now pronounce you.
Yes.
Send me the tiara.
Yes.
Start wearing it. Thank you so much for having me, and thanks for doing this work. It's so important, and I know making a podcast is an undertaking, so I appreciate all that you're doing to help caregivers like us.
Yeah. Absolutely. Most welcome. We are let's dive in. I mean, our listening audience, they definitely need to know you and your work along, because one of the team members of Caregivers Like Us, and share just a little bit about your answering the call to your journey of caregiving. And so the audience, we know where you're coming from, and then go into a little bit of what that started to all of what you do now.
Yeah, sure. So I didn't realize I was a caregiver. I say I was caregiver unaware, or I wasn't caregiver aware, but I really was, and consider myself still a lifelong caregiver. My grandfather lost his vision when I was 5, really young, and I was, quote unquote, helping him. AKA caregiving, right? But no, I didn't know that. And he passed, and my grandma was still with us, and she lived for another 25 years after he passed. Wow. She lived to be 98, so of course she ended up needing care. My mom was actually her caregiver for 25 years at least. And then I was living in New York, and I came back about 5 years before my grandma passed. I really knew that I didn't want my mom to be alone for when someone lives that long. This might sound odd, but I had anticipatory grief about my grandma dying for so long, because she lived so long. And of course I'm grateful she lived so long. And for 20 years, I was really stressed out that she wasn't going to live, which is such an odd thing to talk about, but it's a real thing. So I came back, and about 5 years later, I came back to Canada, and about 5 years later, my grandma did pass. But I really didn't want my mom to go through that on her own, which I must have been tuning into something, because pretty much right after grandma transitioned, mom was diagnosed with young onset. And, then that started. I hadn't done caregiving on that level. My grandma she wasn't really mobile, but cognitively she was there. But my mom was very young and energetic, and I didn't know anything about dementia. I knew absolutely nothing about dementia. So that really 180'd my whole world, my whole life. And as you can tell, what I do with my life and time now as well. Yeah. So that's kind of the brief history of my caregiving journey. It wasn't until I was caregiving for mom that I realized how, obviously we actually have a healthcare system here.
Right, you actually have one.
Yeah.
Totally aware. And it's a total mess. And at that same token, it's probably more effective than what you have going on there, which is, I think, nothing, pretty much, unless you have insurance. That covers certain things, which that often isn't the case from what I understand. But I didn't realize that there wasn't going to be any help, or very little help. You get a diagnosis. Oh, call the Alzheimer's Society. Oh, great. I thought a team of people were going to just swoop in and help. I really thought that, because when the doctor said call the Alzheimer's Society, they said it with such a confidence that I really thought, oh, okay, there's a procedure, there's a process here.
Yeah, a lot of people.
It was totally
Yeah.
to find out that wasn't what was going on.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. I don't know how I did it now looking back. I don't know how any of us are doing it, actually.
No.
Day by day.
Moment by moment.
Yeah.
Sometimes I couldn't even think of the day. Like, oh, if I thought of what had to go on for the whole day, and I'd only slept for 45 minutes or 20 minutes or an hour, I would turn into a different person that wasn't going to be effective.
Yeah.
Right.
How are we doing this?
That is the question. We always, in our slogan, it's like answering the call. And when you answer the call to something, like you said, I love it. What'd you say? Caregiving unaware?
Yeah.
Yeah, both. I wasn't caregiver aware. I didn't know I was a caregiver until somebody called me one when I was caring for mom.
Right.
Oh, what do you mean I'm a caregiver? I'm her daughter.
Right.
What does that even mean? Of course I care about this person. She's my mom.
Yeah.
There's some mental gymnastics there to kind of land into acknowledging that title, right? And transitioning from daughter or spouse or parent or sibling or friend or cousin, what have you, into caregiver.
Yeah. I didn't think about that transition. That's neat that you brought that up. Because, it's like me and my brother, it's like when things happen to mom's in the hospital. Oh, okay. We're going to take care of mom. What does she need? Oh, she needs to come home. Okay, well, we're going to remodel the house. We're going to, she may come home in a wheelchair. We don't know. And you're right. It's like that's moms. You don't, there's no title. Matter of fact, that's interesting. I didn't even think about, I'm trying to
There,
think of when I thought of the title caregiver. It's probably a whole year or so afterwards. It's like, oh, because you need to say you're a caregiver in order to get help or assistance or something.
you probably saw it on a form. Oh, I'll check that because we'll get something. Or so, like me, maybe someone called you that. I mean, it is true, right? Yeah, mom needs to come home. Okay, what do we have to do to make that happen? Or my child is needing these things. Great, of course, we're just going to do that. But we don't, I don't know, I can't remember the stat in the States, but here there's 8 or 9 million caregivers, which is a lot. I think the population of Canada is 37 million.
Mm.
It's a pretty big chunk.
So, yeah.
Uh, but how many people don't even consider themselves caregivers, so they're not even included? Like,
Mm.
I don't know how they got to that number, but I definitely think it's more. I mean, I don't really know anybody who hasn't at some time provided some type of care for somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I want to look. We have to do some U.S. statistics because that's a great statistic to know. Like, what's the percentage of?
Yeah.
I think there's quite a lot in the States. I think there's 50 million. I mean, now it's becoming an election issue, right? Kamala said something. Trump said something just yesterday about a caregiver tax credit. Great. Everybody needs to be talking about this. It's a huge
Yeah.
voter base, right?
Absolutely.
And it also, with caregiving, it really can have an impact on the economy. This is something that the UK looks at because just dementia alone, I believe it's on set to triple by 2050. Just dementia. That's just one
Wow.
one
Wow.
illness, right? Okay, so say that happens. That's in 25 years. You know, to provide, my mom needed 24/7 one-to-one care. How are we doing that when you pull someone who's working out of the economy and they have to go on welfare and food stamps and whatever, any low-hanging fruit that you can get, and then also not be starting a business, not be spending on things that are not related to caregiving. This affects the economy as well.
It's true. That is so true. Didn't think about that. So, see, this is good because then you're thinking back and like you said, like my business, thankfully I had my own business and I wasn't an employee, so to speak, for the time that I would have needed to take off. But you're right. Like all of a sudden, when it becomes thousands of dollars a month, just to make sure that there's, comfortable care for mom. And I can only imagine and I mean, Christy's story, and I can only imagine it being a whole different thing with the hospital visits and the hospital bills.
Yeah.
But when your budget, I don't even think you had a budget to, well, what's mom gonna need for care, and it wasn't even not even gas. So okay, do we have gas to get to the appointments? Do we have got to have car insurance? And
Yeah.
you're right. It affects the economy in a whole financial way.
It's everything. Even, some people need thickener, right, for their water.
Yeah.
$20 a canister. You need one a week, or it's. I had no idea the cost of care. There's two costs of care, right? Maybe three. The emotional toll, the physical, and the monetary.
Yeah.
And that money one, if you don't have that, which let's face it, most people are not having that, it really it adds to the mental toll, and because you end up having to take everything on yourself, physical toll as well. So
Absolutely.
then, the caregiver often dies before the caree.
Oh, absolutely.
How is this working?
Yeah.
How is this working here? Just doesn't make any sense. And it also points to how far we've gotten away from community,
Mm,
right? We used to live in villages and small communities, and you know, yes, today's my day with the kids, or I don't know how they organize it. you
It was
know,
a team effort, yeah.
yeah, team effort, right? This person's doing this, that person's doing that. And because we all live in, boxes beside each other,
mhm.
and we don't really talk to each other, none of us are benefiting from our neighbors. And most people do want to be of service in this life, on this planet, in this world, right? Most people want to help and want to do something. Maybe not at the same capacity as another person, but that's fine. But we need to create the opportunities for that. We have to bring back community, right? Through creating opportunities for people to say, oh, yeah, I can help.
Mm.
Oh, you just need someone to do the dishes? Fine, I'll come do the dishes. You need a wheelchair ramp? Oh, yeah, it takes me an hour. I can do that.
Building that.
But if this house doesn't know that that house needs that,
Right.
how is it happening?
Wow. And that need is, like you said, it's going to increase and increase and increase it exponentially. Um, yeah, it's going to be like who's going to need what and when and what resource do you have? Maybe you can't reach out past your block or your neighbor next door. You gotta,
Totally. Yeah. And as we talk about, including, right? There's so much talk of inclusion now. But guess who's missing? Caregivers and people living with chronic illness and people living with disability. They're still not visible. And if we're really going to truly live in an inclusive society, this is a huge chunk of the number.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Everyone's going to be affected by that at some point.
Yep. That's a major point. That's a major point.
That's why
And
she's the Queen of Canada.
that's right. That's right.
I wish I actually was the Queen of Canada. I would have so much power. Yeah,
Well,
no, it is a lot to think about, obviously I know dementia the most, I know about dementia the most, but I would also say this is true of people living with other conditions. We still aren't ready to see it as a society, so we put people over there behind closed doors instead of, you know, building our communities to be tolerant and inclusive. And gosh, I mean, in my journey with mom, and I did not want to be a caregiver. Okay, let's just be clear.
Yes.
I was, mid 30s, had my little life going. I don't even remember what I was doing now, but at the time, I, was going to hot yoga every day. I was looking good. I was, I don't know what I was doing my work and my things. And I also didn't get along with my mom. I
that's really
loved my mom more than anything, but we could not. What time is it? I don't know what time it is. Like it was, it was so crazy.
wow.
So it wasn't like I was like, yay, you know, let me do a double handspring into this role. I was not trying to be a caregiver at that time, or maybe any time. But what I will say, and what I know, and what I'm so grateful for, is that it gave me so much. It grew me into me. And it taught me so much, just so much about what it means to be human and here and what actually matters. And I'm so grateful for that. I feel like my mom really sacrificed and suffered a lot for me to get that teaching. My mom's my little Buddha, you know? So there's a lot of opportunity in caregiving. It doesn't mean it wasn't hard, but you know, we hide these people living with chronic illness or disease behind closed doors, and we miss the opportunity, right, to have these really deep, meaningful relationships that in my opinion is what life's about.
Yeah, really is. I think I like what you said about her, your mom being a teacher, to learn the sight. We would, the things that we experience and that you grow to learn through the sacrifice, through the care, through, I know for me, I can speak from I wouldn't have learned those items. Like you said, I wouldn't have even thought twice. It wouldn't have been entered in my mind. Yeah, I'm a caring person. Yeah, you know, but the depth and the level of not only care for mom, but also having, well, like caregivers like us. It's like once you become a caregiver and learn what you're in this, whatever the circumstances, you have immediate compassion. You have immediate, like, I get you because you went through that that training or that boot camp or whatever, however you want to address it. But yeah, I wouldn't have had this podcast. We wouldn't be reaching out to fellow caregivers. We wouldn't become queens of caregiving for Canada. We wouldn't make the movies to help other people to be compassionate. It's like we had to take the journey down to the depths of wherever, I won't say wherever, to the depths of care and really learn in selfishness, even though we didn't like it or a lot, either we didn't like it a lot or not. But what we're able to bring up and come up with is actual care for others and to teach others that same kind of care.
Yeah. Yeah. Growing pains don't tickle.
Put that on a t-shirt. That's good. I'll take a mug, a hat, and a shirt. And even a tote bag.
Common saying in our house, yes.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, isn't that what we're here to do, is grow, right? That's what it seems to me. And yeah, they don't tickle. And who's signing up for that? Oh, I'll do it.
Right.
Who's signing up for that? I had to be forced into that. Right? It had to be. It wouldn't have happened. You know, and I've done so much self-work and right, but nothing.
Nothing teaches you for this. Nothing. Yeah.
Nothing. And yeah, I mean, it's beyond a PhD, right? You can't pay for a teaching like this. You can't. And I just feel, again, I feel so grateful that she even allowed me to care for her, right? That, you know, of course I wish she was here and healthy. But I do feel like she really, her suffering, you know, my mom just really gave me a lot of gifts. She gave me the gift of life, and she let me care for her. To me, it's very deep.
It
I
is.
did not always feel like that. I did not. And it was not easy, like I said, and around the time that she passed, probably that last year, I was really running out of steam. I
Mm,
was really tired.
mm,
Um, it's hard, and I had help, not that much help, but I had some help. Um, it's so hard,
when you
you
say
know.
you had help, like how um what
Okay,
you needed 24-hour care, but yeah, sure.
so in Canada, in most provinces, we have something called home support. So you can get some hours. Sometimes you have to pay for them. Sometimes you don't. You can get some hours where someone comes into the house and provides care for the person so that you can do something else. So those can be respite hours, they can be ADLs, activities of daily living, getting dressed, all those things, right? They're limited. The government help is limited in what they can do. They can heat up food. They can't cook food. You can have one bath or bathing a week only. There's a lot of problems with it.
Mm,
It's a revolving door of workers. However, we have it. I don't think you have it, so I'm not going to complain about it
mm,
to people in the States that are listening, because it does, it's better than nothing. As my grandma would say, it's better than a poke in the nose. True. I So you don't get that, when I started, we only got 15 minutes 3 days a week or something like that. Okay, super annoying. Then, sorry, but still better than for people that don't have it. Okay, so then it turned into like,
validate similar.
yeah, then it turned into 6 hours a week. Okay, and then by the end, I was getting 27 hours a week,
Mm, mm,
which you can do something with. What I did was I grouped it. So how did I do it? I think I did like four times seven. I grouped it so that I could work, so that I would have like 5 hour blocks, 25. Yeah, I think I did 5 hours a day at that point. But mom, she was a 24/7 care. So, and if she didn't sleep, which was often the case, I also did not sleep. And I had to keep working. We needed the money, right? And yeah, but I don't know how people without even that. I think about this a lot. I don't know how people are doing it.
yeah.
Um, and even there's working caregivers, of course, too. I don't know if I mentioned that, but people that are working 9 to 5, whatever, 8 to 4, whatever their shifts are,
Mm,
could be night shift. How are people leaving people? How is this working there? I don't know.
yeah.
But yeah, so that was the help that I had. Um, I had a friend who also stepped in and really helped me quite a bit. She was amazing. I
Mm,
had another friend that donated some private help to me. I
nice.
used Hilarity for Charity, and I got a couple respite grants from them. They're in LA.
Mm,
Seth Rogen's charity. He's Canadian. He went to my rival high school, but his wife's mother was living with dementia, and they basically saw what
So
it took, and like, how are people. You have to be rich,
yeah.
right, to
Yeah.
do it. So I guess he was. I know I'm totally guessing here, but I guess he was like, well, I can afford this. What are people who can't afford this doing? Because what are people who can't afford this doing? I
Right.
don't know. Um, but really, I don't know how I did it really. And then I ended up getting, I used mom's savings. You know, she didn't have much, but I used that to pay for some private help. I
Mm.
mean, you do what you have to do,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
It was nuts. It was nuts. But you know, this is also why I speak up, because I don't want anybody to go through what we went through.
Right.
I don't know what that sound was.
That was me. I'm sorry. I know. I
Okay.
know.
Felt guilty that it was me, but it wasn't. Okay.
We'll edit it.
It's fine.
Mhm.
Yeah, I really don't want anyone to go through what we did. And
Yeah.
and you know, every day, how many people are, again, just dementia, but there's many other things. How many people just in one day are getting a diagnosis?
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
many how many people's worlds change just right now as we're
Right.
sitting here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Whole world, whole life, 180.
Uh,
And then you're right. How are the help that is one required that may not exist. Then two, how do you get access to that help or even know about it? Because that's one of the reasons why we're doing this podcast, is so that ultimately we want caregivers like us to be a common name. Oh, you become a caregiver, or you're caring for somebody, or someone had a stroke, or you found a dementia. Go to Caregivers Like Us. You're going to find something that's going to help you, or we'll have resources tied to, because that's, like you said, one of the things. How do you know? How do you learn?
you don't, and you are a resource. And then, but yeah, it's just, you don't know. One thing that I did, this is maybe a hot tip, but one thing that I did was I went to a support group. It was a terrible support group. However, I heard other people speak, and this one woman was very smart, and I could tell she knew what was up. And I became friends with her. We're still friends. But I learned a lot from her. And it is true, you're providing that resource, learning from other caregivers. All of us are sent out in the world to reinvent the wheel here. Why? Why do we all have to start at the beginning? There's millions of us. Why isn't there why
Right, right.
is it more streamlined? Like, where's the hub? There's no hub. It doesn't have to be this hard, but due to lack of efficiency and effective healthcare, we're separated, and we're all doggy paddling, trying to keep our nose up. And this is also why, when I do have the opportunity to make content, I try to make something that is effective for people, right? If you're going to spend your 3 minutes on me, let me try to do you a solid here.
Right. Which you absolutely have done. For those listening and not watching, Katrina has made these. What are these short films? Or are these like?
Yeah.
Just,
So, okay. So there's two. There's two. So we have a web series, and that one's called Therapeutic Fibbing, and it's 8 episodes, and it's a family navigating a diagnosis of dementia for the matriarch of the family. And yeah, it's good. It's also short. Our season 2 is a little bit longer. The episodes, if that doesn't work, you could watch them on 1.5. Speed them up. But they're actors. They're scripted, kind of dramedy vibe, right? Because we also want to lighten it up a little bit. Usually the content is just, oh God. I mean, we're already, Are we already kind of depressed all the time? You know, how can we put on a different lens? How can we view this maybe through a lot of funny things happen? A lot of funny things happen in caregiving, right?
Yes.
So, how can we show this a little bit more? How can we bring some humor? How can we just show kind of how nuts families are? Family dynamics can be, and even friends. So, therapeutic fibbing is actually, it's a, what's the word? A tactic. Tactic's not the right word. Like a tool
Mhm.
that you could. I don't know why I couldn't grab that word. A tool that people that is sometimes recommended to use in relationship with a person living with dementia. So, you know, it's to mitigate stress and anxiety, right? What time are we going to the doctor? What, or my parents are dead, or, you know, no, they're not. Your parents are dead. No, they're not dead. You know, okay, sure, they're dead, right? Like, what can you go along with? Can you meet the person where they are,
Yeah.
right? Instead of, do you have to be, they're in a different space. Can we go to that space, or do we have to make them come to our space? Because they're probably not going to be able to come to our space, one. And two, trying to get them to our space is going to be really hard on them, and it's going to be really hard on us. So, how can we not do that?
When you
So,
get them there, they're going to forget and you're going to have to redo it again.
and then you're starting from scratch. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's one series. And some organizations actually even use it as a tool to support their caregivers. And then the newest pilot that we have out, I don't know if we'll get picked up for series, keep you
Mm.
posted, but that's called Things Not to Say to a Caregiver. And it's based on my real life. It's all of our series are based on our own lived experience. This one is pretty true to me. But you know, people say things that are a thing not to say, you know. I don't think it's on purpose, but it can just, you know, things that people say just make us feel worse, you know? Well, you need to take care of yourself. Oh God, like it's another thing that I have to add on my list. I can barely take care of this person I'm taking care of.
Mm.
You know, or I thought I was taking care of myself pretty well. Or you know, maybe instead of saying something, can you just do something? Like, you know, order DoorDash or Uber Eats or whatever, or just drive by and take out the garbage,
Mm.
or perhaps pick up the carry and take them for a drive. You know, there's a million things that people could do if they do want to help. And saying an unhelpful phrase isn't one of those things.
Yeah.
Super true. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, we created that. This is for caregivers to relate to see themselves in, but also maybe their friends and other people can just watch, and then they don't have to say anything.
Right. Right. That's that's what I was looking at. It's like, yes, this is a good thing for someone else to push play and get it because they can see. It's like, oh, is that what you go through? Or it's like, yeah, it's so helpful.
Yeah.
It's so helpful to be able to communicate. Oh, that's what goes on. Probably get some apologies. I am so sorry that I
Oh
wasn't
yeah.
cognizant, or
It, so many people after it went up
apologize.
said, "Was that about me?"
was,
Or,
was I?
"Oh my God, I feel so bad." Or you know what? That really helped me. I can see where I did this or didn't do this, or you know, someone else that reached out that I don't know. They were like, "I thought it was just me that couldn't have a shower, and that was failing as a caregiver. I didn't know everyone was doing this, so that was validating for her, which is validating for us, the creators. So yeah, there's a lot there.
Yeah. I've yet to meet a caregiver who has it all together.
Yeah, right. I don't think that exists at all.
Having it all together. When you find that person, please, I would love.
I'm going to ask them to teach a class if I ever find them. Yes.
Right.
They could charge a lot for that class.
Yes, they could.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that would be major. We have so many because there's so many variables. I mean, there's variables personality-wise. There's variables relationship-wise. Like you were sharing, like your relationship with your mom is probably totally different than my relationship. I think me and my brother had it real easy because my mom was simple, quiet, mouse. She
Perfect.
didn't need
She was
anything.
perfect.
Now, if there was someone to care for, it'd probably be her. And she started to change a little bit. Like, Mom, okay, the dementia brings out
Talking back.
stuff that you didn't know existed, or it hadn't.
Yeah.
And it's like, what?
Yeah. Yeah. I worked in an Alzheimer's facility, and your mom was the golden example. Yeah.
So it's, you never know personalities relationship wise and stuff.
You don't know. And this is often not considered, right? Well, you have to do this. It's your mom. Well, we don't get along. We don't know the history of people's relationships. We don't know what's going on, right? So just to have this expectation as well, right, that we're going to do it. I mean, that wasn't there for me. I definitely made a conscious choice, but a lot of people, and then there's the guilt. There's the guilt even if you do want to do it. There's guilt. There's guilt everywhere.
Right.
There is guilt everywhere. We're
Yeah.
never good enough. We're never could have done this. I wish. I still have it. Like little things. The guilt, I really allow for that to pass. But there's things where it's like, oh, I wish that never happened. Like I still feel sick if I think about it, right? Or when it just punches me in the face. This weekend I got punched in the face by a couple things because I had to look through some photos. Oh, brutal, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, Mom. I'm sorry that happened. It's rough out here.
That's you're reminding me of a story. I don't know if I ever said on an episode, but we were talking about, when you're hiring other caregivers other than yourself. And I remember this one lady, she was toxic, talked all the time. And I remember my mom, as soon as she would come over to watch, my mom would go, oh, I'm tired. And she would go in the room to sleep. And my mom, she wouldn't do that with anybody else. And one day the caregiver left, and my mom peeks out the side. Is she gone? I was like, Mom, are you okay? Is she gone? I said, yeah, she's left. And my mom sat with me, and this is like the first time actually in years. She's like, she just talks too much, way too much. Because I can't stand it. I can't take it. And I felt so bad because I knew it was bad. But at the time of the circumstance, the lady she was all that I could, I needed to do different things with my business, and I didn't have anybody else.
You needed her.
Yeah, I needed her. But at the same time, Mom went to the extreme of vocalizing that she didn't like someone. Oh, that was real bad. And I was so apologetic, and I was like, Mom, I won't have her come back. And she was so nice. No, it's okay. I'll deal with it. I'll deal with it. Like, no, Mom. But yeah, you feel bad about, wow, what was she going through while I wasn't here?
Right. And we're forced into situations that forces them into situations. Right. And then, you need care. or, suddenly, my mom needed care. She's not choosing that care. I'm
Right.
desperately trying to choose that care. She's not even asking for it. I am,
Mm.
right? I mean, I'm pretty sure that my mom was also fine to have breaks for me at times too, which is another thing. But yeah, it's just, there's so many layers. We could talk for hours about that.
Yeah.
We will.
Yes, yes, we will. So we will definitely, yeah, we're definitely going to have multiple series with you. I definitely want to highlight one you about the films and the series that you're doing because I find it such a great tool to communicate and to share with the caregiving community and those that are not part of the caregiver yet. Those that are going to be coming into that. Let us. I know we have. We'll make sure we have your website definitely in the notes and on the resource and on our resource page. We'll be blasting that, and we also want to make sure that we send people to the YouTube channel. And say the channel name again. You told me earlier.
Yeah, so you can Google. So there are links on my website, which my website's katrinaprescott.com. And I can send you these links, but on Facebook and YouTube, if you look up Stories for Caregivers, Therapeutic Fibbing, or Stories for Caregivers, Things Not to Say, they'll come up. But
Nice.
yeah, I mean, the it's a lot of work to make this kind of content, you know, and we do get some funding. I'd love to have more funding
Yep.
because it's expensive to make this kind of content. We're not really, it's not windfall work, right? We're doing it because we like to do it because it's important work and it's easy to digest. And like you said, it's a tool for caregivers, but it's also tools for people who are not yet caregiving. People who might be friends or family to a caregiver that doesn't understand dementia or doesn't understand caregiving. These provide some insight, kind of a gateway, if you will, to easily getting a taste of understanding what that might look like.
Absolutely.
That really helps, in my opinion, helps a caregiver because it can tone down some of the judgment that we receive
Mm.
from people. Well, why don't you just put her in a home? Or why, can't you just leave them on the side of the road and let some, I mean, anyway, but we do experience a lot of judgment as caregivers because of the choices that we make. So hopefully these series kind of lessen that and help people understand that it's okay to be a caregiver and to keep somebody at home and not keep somebody at home. But everybody's choice is okay.
Mm. Mm. That's good.
Yeah.
That's real good. I know I'm going to be sending it immediately to my cousin in Atlanta and my uncle and aunt, husband and wife. They both have dementia, and one is more advanced than the other. We just started noticing this last year, and she's on the state side, and they're in the islands, so her and her brother are taking shifts to travel down to St. Thomas, to take weeks at a time, because now in the Virgin Islands, yeah, it's paradise, but there ain't a lot of caregivers that are there. And those that you can trust on a small island.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of fraud and
Scams.
scam, yeah, a whole bunch of scams. So
Yeah. Oh gosh. I mean, Yeah, there's just so much to factor in. There is so much to factor in. It's endless.
It is. It
Like,
really is.
yeah, I'm caregiving here. That's going to look one way. You're what about some of these other places where there's, or very even in rural parts of Canada, like way, way up north.
Mm,
How are you
mm.
finding people? How is anyone, again, how many times have I said this, but how are people doing that?
Right. Right.
Yeah, so I mean, that is a very stressful situation for your family members, because they're probably worried about that all the time, all the time. I don't think people are aware of how much it penetrates us, the stress and the constant strategizing. Like, I
Yeah.
always said I wouldn't be able to do it if I wasn't a producer. Like, being a producer trained me for caregiving. It
Mm,
still couldn't have trained me enough, which is crazy because production's such an intense job, and New York production at that. Um, but really, I feel like that was the only reason that I could kind of navigate this.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of skill, savvy, creative thinking, um, and and even just knowing how to breathe. Right, that's what I teach my clients right out of the gate. Physical respite and personal respite. This is something I explain it this way. I haven't heard anyone else, but I say that there's two types of respite: physical respite and personal respite. So physical respite, somebody comes in,
mm,
physically there with the person. They are doing things. They can stay with the person. You can physically leave. Okay,
mhm,
great. But there's also personal respite. How can you manage your mind? Because when
mm,
we manage our mind, we can actually have a break, right? The
mm.
only time we don't think is when we're consciously breathing. That's the only time. And if you're breathing and you're thinking, you're not consciously breathing. That's how to know. Oh, I thought I was breathing, but I just thought about what to make for dinner. Okay, start again. But if we're bringing conscious breath, even one a day, it creates a respite because it's one moment of relief for the mind, right? Which is also imperative for the body to just not feel stress for 10, 15 seconds. And even when you do have that physical respite come in, it's not super helpful if you're just going away and being stressed the whole time.
Right.
Really learning how to bring in this personal respite is key to being a caregiver. And it wasn't until I learned that things started to shift for me a little
Mm,
bit.
mm.
Because when you're giving yourself those breaks, you can also respond instead of reacting, right? It's a game changer. But again, a lot of people don't know this. A lot of people can't get physical respite, which is why personal respite is even more important. Like,
Right.
how are you going to get 30 seconds of a break today? That might be it. That
Right.
might be all that you're going to get, but you've got to try to give it to yourself.
Wow.
It's the life preserver, right?
That's so good. I love the personal respite to be able to breathe. And I like what you were saying about the conscious thinking. And how did you discover that? Um, and I'm sure it's something that you also share with your programs or things like that. Yeah. How did you discover or discover that to,
Well, yeah. So I do share this information. There's a free download on my website. If you go to katrinaprescott.com, I have a creating, can't remember what I called it. I think I called it creating respite. It's
mm,
a free download with some tools to help create that personal respite. How did I come up with that? So it's a few different things. I listened to a lot of Eckhart Tolle. I was in a mindfulness-based dementia program here. I'm a yoga teacher, and I know about breathing. But I feel like I didn't put it all together right away, like when I was first caregiving. And at some point, the light bulb went off, and I something had to change, and I realized it was only going to be me. She was going to change, but she couldn't control it. I was the one who could control me changing, right? So what can I do? What can I do to give myself some relief, because I'm going to turn into somebody I don't like very much, potentially. It's hard, right? So I feel like I just kind of developed it over time. I did see one Eckhart Tolle video that was so great. He said something, this was around the same time, because I was looking for tools myself that could help me make this shift with myself. And he said, instead of, for those who don't know, Eckhart Tolle he's a spiritual teacher. He lives here actually in Vancouver. But he said, instead of, you have to make a sandwich, right? Oh God, gotta make another sandwich. I'm so sick of making these sandwiches every day, right? Whatever. Instead of going there, it's just, I'm removing bread from the bag. The bread is on the counter. I have the peanut butter. The peanut butter is going on the bread. I am putting like, really, how do you remove the narrative, right? Because that narrative takes up so much space and just keeps us in that place of stress. So and maybe we can't lose all of it, but what could go? What narratives are we holding on to that we can let go of, right? Okay, peanut butter sandwich. Yes, check, can let go of that one, right? Okay, so how am I going to do that? I'm going to use my breathing. I'm going to stand there and make the sandwich, and I'm going to practice breathing from my pelvis to the top of my head, because that's a meditation when you're doing that. So I'm going to not think for the 1.25 minutes that it takes me to make this sandwich or whatever. I'm driving, I'm at a red light. Okay, conscious breath, right? It's a mini reset, it's a mini respite, it's a mini break. And we need those. We are inundated with thoughts and stress, and no sleep can make that run even more, right? And then no sleep can make it really negative. That was my experience. So how can we give ourselves some relief from that? We're the only ones that can do it. No one can do it for us, unfortunately. But if we can do that, even once a day, and then maybe the next week it's, I did it twice today. It kind of becomes habit. And it becomes incorporated. And it does change us. It does provide stress relief. And it creates space. And that's what we as caregivers often need, is space. Because we are connected. We are connected to the people we're caring for, and the million other things that we have to do to care for that person. So for a lot of people, especially in the States, this is the only break that they'll have access to. It's very important tool.
This is super good, because along with that, it's not just the getting, like you said, I love that. It's not just the physical respite, but for those who don't have the physical rest, how, like you said, the 20 hours that is required to be up, you're barely getting any sleep. Can I get a 20-second here and there? Can I get a minute and a half? Where can I get that? And making the sandwich, that's great, but
I've made sandwiches like that before.
Have to make another, yeah, I mean, we're all doing this, right? We're all, and that's the other thing. And that's why these videos, right? Because I don't know that you're thinking that, right, Christy? So I feel bad about myself because I think I'm the only person on earth who doesn't want to make a goddamn another sandwich. No, probably 9 million other people don't want to make another sandwich right now too. And that's the easy task.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So it's how are we getting through this? How are we going to do it? And the breath, really plays into that. Really, it's a 911. I remember I would have days where I was supposed to have help and I would be super tired, just waiting, and then cancel. Right? Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh, please God, send somebody else. Like this is what, and no one's coming.
Right.
And you kind of panic. Okay, what can I do? What can I do? If you were lucky enough to even have help, but on the days that I was and they didn't come, that I would full on panic because I'm on day 3 of no sleep here and I'm behind. I haven't done taxes. I haven't had a shower. I haven't done work. I haven't eaten, whatever. How are you getting through that day? How are you getting through that day and not becoming angry, violent, right? This is another thing. There's a high rate of elder abuse, and I'm going to go ahead and say it's probably because there's not enough respite for people. Not the only reason, but we're unpaid and untrained, right? And we are thrown into some really intense situations. So it's not people's fault, right? We're not supported here. And it's not setting anybody up for success.
That's true.
So good.
This is good stuff.
So good. Oh my gosh.
I think we need to have one of the next episodes is definitely a whole breathing session. That I think that would be so beneficial. Just to even have that as a resource on the podcast. Listen to podcast 38 or 68 or whichever one it is. For to have that, because that what you're sharing is. I wrote down the comment you said we're unpaid and we're untrained. Again, when you answer the calls thing, it's like you don't know, and when you're thrown in it or step into it, and it continues to build and build and build, and you don't realize you're just really responding to do the best that you can with what you have and what you know, and then it's nonstop. I mean, I see, Christy, I mean, your whole experience is all, I'm thinking of what, dementia is one area, but where you have a chronic ill, and when you're mentioning about like you may not have help, like you didn't really have help. There's not too much to really get help from.
Yeah, there were people like because they didn't want him passing away on their watch, so they were like, sorry, I'm busy, and So
those personal respite and breathing like save so many lives, the caregiver and
Yeah, no, that's why I was laughing when she was making the sandwich, because I'm like, if she only knew how many days I made sandwiches like that. Like, for years, I made my sandwiches with an attitude.
No joke, right? And we don't need, it's not fair that we feel like that.
Yeah.
We love these people, maybe. Not everybody loves the person they're caregiving, so I want to acknowledge that, but it does, us being overworked and pushed to the brink robs us of quality time that, with the person that we're caring for. I don't want to show up like a jerk. I love my mom. It's not her fault.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to be a you know what.
Yeah.
So that angers me, right? Because we're put in such challenging situations that we're just totally robbed of having an experience that might even feel positive. You know, like how I spoke at the beginning, like it changed my life. And there were many times where I, you know, kill me now. Like, can we just both die today? Because I can't do it tomorrow. I can't even do it in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, it does feel like that. And we need to talk about that. And it's not fair. It's really not fair to the person who's receiving care or the person who's giving it. And it doesn't respect the relationship between those people. It really bothers me.
Yeah.
It's a theft.
I know.
You don't make the same face.
I know we're almost out of time. So don't
You've seen that face so
even
many times.
Did you say that again? All right.
Well, I know we've been on for a while, so that's a whole other topic on itself too.
Right.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Well, this is really, really good. And Christy, anything you want to?
No, I just love her. She talks my language. I just, it's so fun.
Absolutely. Well, we want to definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we want our listening audience. We definitely will be back, like I said, with several more. Go to katrinaprescott.com to get the downloads, the episodes, all of the stuff. She has a wealth of things. This is not even the tip of the iceberg. This is she has just a lot to offer and to share, and the heart for it. And that's why I was so excited about this episode and the ones to come, because immediately, you know, her mom had dementia, mine had dementia, and it was like, okay, let's make this happen. And we want to just continue to share and help all of the caregivers like us to be able to strengthen one another and have discussions like this, have exits, or what do you call it, releases like this, and things like that.
Yeah.
And I love, Katrina, one of the really big things I love is that Katrina's in Canada, but whether it's Canadian healthcare, U.S. lack of healthcare, or, you know, whichever, or just even talking about my cousin and parents in the U.S. Virgin Islands where resources, so it's global, and caregiving is global, and we're able to talk about the different systems or it's still the lack of support that is an exponentially growing daily concern. I love what you said, like how many people in the time of this podcast, how many thousands of people have started that journey?
Yeah. Yeah.
I got to look at that statistic, like how what's the frequency of,
If they're even counting it.
right. What's a kind of guesstimate of?
But it's got to be, I think about that quite a lot. Like, I'll never forget the day that Mom was diagnosed, what that was like. And that's what I see when I think about it, like how crappy I felt coming out of that room.
Yeah.
How many people are feeling like that today, right
Yeah.
now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopeless, alone, scared, just
Yeah.
overwhelmed, right?
They've hundreds of hugs working in the hospital, in the ER and ICU. So just to families who are just beside themselves with the circumstance they've been given. And like you say, it didn't come gradual. It just fell in their lap. And
Yeah.
here we are. And I know it's tough getting through this time. So you don't have to even ask, like you said, or say words. I just, you know, being the mom that I am, I just love to love on other people, and you can read them and know where they're at and what they're going through. And I just kept giving hugs. That was my thing. Yeah.
I mean, people need that, right? Remember that? Did you ever hear that song, Charlotte Diamond, 4 hugs a day? That's the minimum.
No, I thought it was like 13 hugs a day.
Oh, wow. You're really doing well.
Yeah, I'm like, give me the hugs. Yeah. And now little ones, like, yeah, like 30 seconds long and more. Like, yeah.
Oh, good. Oh, I can't wait. We got to meet one day.
Yeah. Yeah.
We now definitely got to come to Vancouver. I love Vancouver.
Yeah.
I only been there once and I love it. And I'm like, all right, Katrina, we coming up.
Coming to see you, girl.
Wait till it's sunny again.
Okay.
Yes. I need warm weather. Not hot weather. Not humid.
It's not cold now, but it does rain a lot. So just wait. Summer. Come in the summer.
Summertime.
Yeah.
We got you. Well, we'll definitely be coming to one of the events or one that we create or something.
That would be amazing to create an event.
Or have a
Yeah.
live something. There's gonna be something. It's gonna be something. But well, we are at time for this time, but there's going to be another time sometime in the near future. Anyway, I'm glad we're recording. That was a bar right there.
Good job.
That was deep.
I know.
Yeah.
We're gonna quote that one. Well, thank you all for listening. Again, visit and explore Katrina Prescott and all that she's doing. You really going to enjoy her the filming and the shows. And
our videos.
Yeah.
Yes.
Please check that out. Support. And also, we're going to definitely look at ways to help spread the word. Not only spread the word, but hey, we got to get finances too, because I understand that production stuff is, there's podcast costs, and that's minimal compared to like the films. And let me also say the level and the quality of it's not just like we got an iPhone and we put some stuff together. No, this is production.
Yeah.
Really great acting is it's just great.
It was so well put together.
This is top-notch stuff, so that's not cheap.
Yes.
And we want to support that to be able to put that around. So we'll have that on the site as well. And we want to support in any way possible. We're your bro and sis down here in the
yes, happy to be part of your ripple
in the States.
So grateful. Yeah, thank you so much for having me on and for doing this. And I do know it's work, and you care about caregivers. I care about caregivers too.
Yeah.
Let's do what we can.
Yep.
I'm always game for more.
Yes.
Absolutely. Appreciate you so much. And everybody, we'll see you next time. Be sure to continue to fill your cup so that you can serve from the saucer. We want to hear your stories, your services, your resources, anything that you have. We want the main thing is to share this with other caregivers or those that have already finished their assignment of caregiving. we just constantly want to share the stories.
Yeah. Come share your stories.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear them.